I cannot believe what I just watched. I streamed this entire game. Florida State was a 16.5-point favorite in this game. And let me put it to you this way. If Florida State would have shut Boston College out and won, they still wouldn't have covered their line. You had 21 rushing yards for an entire full four-quarter game. Not like it got rain delayed and they just couldn't finish the game. You had 21 rushing yards for an entire game. But you had more earlier in the game. You ended up taking 2 sacks in a row with DJU. You went from 28 to 21. For every Florida State fan that commented in my comment section saying, you got the best defensive line in the country, DJU is going to be serviceable enough to win, everyone that voted Florida State to be a top 10 team should be doing nothing but apologizing right now. Florida State suing their own conference. The ACC should sue Florida State for being an embarrassment to the conference. You got snubbed from the playoffs last year, and you've acted like nothing but whiny babies since then. And everything you've done, said, typed, and your team has done on that field has done nothing but validate that decision. Me and C-Dog, when we were live on the air, I was like trying to think of teams that were worse than Florida State in the ACC that had an awful showing in week 0 and week 1. Duke maybe is worse than you. They lost everything last year. Virginia. Then you really got to start thinking of who is a worse team than Florida State. Florida State might struggle to make a bowl this year. That team in that game gave up. Florida State flat out gave up in that game. Just like LSU did the week before. Or not the week before, but the day before, yesterday. I've never seen anything like this. The next person that Florida State sues or entity might be Mike Norvell. His buyout's got to be somewhere in the $70 million range. Now all of them are saying, let's fire Mike Norvell. So you might sue Mike Norvell to try to get out of the buyout. Or hell, maybe you drop the lawsuit you have against the ACC so you can, find some pennies under the couch and try and get rid of Mike Norvell. You guys acted like you've ran this conference for the past 15 years. You're like that guy that shows up to work that really hasn't proven anything to anybody and wonders why you're not the CEO. I don't know what that was anyway. I don't even know what to say. Now you're so bad you're affecting me as a Georgia Tech fan because our win doesn't look that great now. Like us beating Florida State is about like us beating North Carolina. It don't mean anything. Just everyone does it. Everyone beats Florida State. Looking down your schedule, you got Memphis next week. Memphis might beat you. Mike Norvell's old team might beat you. Is Cal a better team at SMU? Clemson is absolutely going to beat the soul out of you. Again in Tallahassee. Miami's going to hang 50 on you. Florida State might be the worst Power 5 team or Power 4 team in their own state. In their own state. Notre Dame's going to beat the soul out of you. I think North Carolina can beat you. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have to win every winnable game on your schedule to make a bowl now. Florida could beat you. I think Florida's a better team than you. And they're ready to fire Billy Napier yesterday. Boston College had well over. Let me look back at the thing. They had what? 260 rushing yards in year 21? They had well over 10 times the rushing yards you did. Florida State's a soft team, both physically and mentally. They're a soft team. I almost feel bad for Florida State fans, but I don't. One, for how you acted in the offseason, but 2, now you're affecting me because we beat you and we don't get any credit for that now because you're an awful team. And 2, for just like creating chaos in your own conference. Again, the ACC, it should be the other way around. Florida State shouldn't be suing the ACC. The ACC should be suing Florida State right now. What's the excuse now? You're 0 for 3 since your playoff snub. Now what's the excuse? Is it Kirk Herbstreit? Is it ESPN? I'm sure that the clock, whatever was going on with the clock, you're going to point to that. That didn't have anything to do with putting up 21 rushing yards. Most people who are watching this video have been alive more years than you had rushing yards in that game. If you're old enough to drink, you've lived as many years or more than Florida State had rushing yards. I think you had 3 third down conversions. When you got to the fourth quarter in that game, more quarters had been played than you had third down conversions. And it was like someone in the chat was saying, it wasn't all DJU. No, he looked awful. You dropped probably 10 balls. Your offensive line looks awful. That right tackle for you, Lou commented or something saying that right tackle might be the worst in history. I was like, well, maybe Romello Height's just that good for Georgia Tech. I think he's just legit awful. So we were told you have the best defensive front in college football, one of the best offensive lines in college football. Like, you're telling me Mike Norvell is so inept as a coach, he can't tell that in practice? He can't evaluate his own talent. Well, maybe they're all awful, and because they were going good on good, you couldn't see it. So how does a coach ever rebuild a team then? I'm leaning more and more towards Mike Norvell might be a fraud. He's been there forever. Miami goes and gets Cam Ward out of the portal. He looks great. You get DJU, who's failed to not work at multiple schools. You didn't see that on film. Then we're told, in summer practice, he's looking great. Probably because he's playing against your defense, man. Like, the only shot that Florida State has, first of all, is you got to get a better quarterback. But then you're still uphill because your defense is awful. Again, Boston College ran for like 260 against you. And yeah, I'm mad because it makes Georgia Tech look worse now, honestly. Georgia State has a better quarterback than Florida State does. Georgia State's a better coached team than Florida State does, the team that we just played yesterday. Or whenever. I'm so discombobulated from this, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. We're going to find out what kind of team you really have now. It would not surprise me at all if you, for the first time ever, you have mid-season opt-outs with Florida State. Because I think this team is going to quit on this fan base this year. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.